What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Grayscale today, the Grayscale Trust, specifically BCHG and LTCN. This could apply to maybe a couple other Grayscale trusts that are very close to their NAV price as far as their premiums go, but mainly I think BCHG and LTCN, if not the closest, they're some of the closest Grayscale trusts to their NAV price. And that's why I want to go over this. Not only that, I know most people in the Grayscale Trust have either some BCHG or some LTCN or both, right? Those seem to be the staples of this kind of ecosystem. I'm also aware that a lot of you were griping about my last title where I said Grayscale Trusts are broken. I wasn't trying to mislead anybody. That's not my style. I understand that sarcasm is not something that is received well over the internet or online or through digital means, but that was sarcasm, my friends. Okay, that was sarcasm. I'm not trying to mislead you guys or dissuade you guys or make anybody sell. Man, if all it was a title saying Grayscale trusts are broken to make you sell down here on a higher low, if that's what it took to make you sell, man, you were going to sell with or without me. So I'm not trying to mislead anybody. I'm just having fun. I'm aware of all, and I think that's why it was negatively received, is because it's probably negatively received by the same people who are panicking right now that BCHG and LTCN aren't pumping. But I do want to apologize if I offended anybody or if I upset anybody with that stuff. It wasn't my intention, okay? I was just having fun. And again, I would just like to ask any of you if you've ever tried to be sarcastic over text, over email, over anything, and just kind of remember it doesn't really go over well, right? And I should have seen that coming, but I thought I was amidst the right crowd. I know a lot of you didn't get offended by that or weren't thrown off by that. You knew that I wasn't even doing it it wasn't a clickbaity title, right? At least I wasn't trying to go for that. I was just having fun, but whatever. And I will, by the way, guys, this is a YouTube channel. I will make titles that I think will grab people's attention. That one was just for fun. I was just having fun. I was trolling a little bit. I was trolling the people who are panicking about Grayscale. That's what that was. But I will make titles that I think grab people's attention, right, from time to time. Don't hate me for that. It's just part of the game. It's part of the game. I'm never going to say something like Bitcoin's going to zero and then only talk about how good Bitcoin is. Unless, I don't know, I could see myself doing that same kind of thing if Bitcoin was like capitulated. Everybody was freaking out that it was going to zero. So I just joined in the pandemanium. And then I used the title that was provocative but funny. I was more making fun of people, not trying to throw people off. I don't know. It's my type of humor, guys. I don't know what else to say. But let's move on. Let's move on. I can't promise it won't be the last time you see a title like that, but I will definitely consider it going forward because it seemed to upset a good bit of you. But let's move on. I'm also going to stand on a wild limb here and guess that title wouldn't offend nearly as many people, if anybody at all, if the prices were doing this. I bet if it weren't for the prices doing this, that title would have not offended anybody at all. That's my wild guess that I'm saying. But let's move on. Enough of my whatever personal stuff, your personal stuff. Let's get into this. So I wanted to talk about something, a perspective. And it really applies specifically, again, to BCHG and LTCN. And it's something that Sabir last night actually had me think about, had me go over. This thought was inspired by Sabir. And I've thought about this before, but we really went over the mathematics of it last night in the Discord. So shout out to Sabir, asking some good questions and having us do a little bit of critical thinking. Okay, so why are the Grayscale trusts moving down? Why are the native assets moving up and the Grayscale trusts are moving down? Why is Bitcoin Cash, why is it up 47% in the month of November? And BCHG is down 23%. Why is Litecoin up, more than LTCN? These kind of things happen. They're not, Bitcoin Cash and BCHG are not solely directly tethered to each other. They don't move tit for tat. Sometimes you see BCHG, LTCN, other Grayscale trusts move opposite of the direction of their underlying assets. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way, right? Sometimes they do move up without the underlying asset moving up. Sometimes they move down without the underlying asset moving down. Okay? And the reason why, and I've theorized why I think the Grayscale trusts are having such a hard time, it's no secret, is because of the Solana ETF getting approved, right? Well, not getting approved, but being filed, and it looks like it's going to get approved this cycle. It looks like it's going to get approved, right? That's why, again, that's why this chart looks like this. Oh, oops. I was like, that's not right. That's why it looks like this, right? That's why it tanked all the way down here, to its respective like NAV price area. And the NAV price has gone up a lot because Solana's gone up a lot. But that's why, at least that's my theory, as to why BCHG and LTCN are underperforming their underlying assets. Excuse me. I think they're underperforming their underlying assets because of all the FUD, all the fear, all the doubt. People are wondering, what happens if Bitcoin Cash gets an ETF approved? What happens if Litecoin gets an ETF approved? It went Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, right? Ethereum and Solana were protecting the sanctity of BCHG, LTCN, and all these other Grayscale trusts. But now that Solana is on the chopping block, now that it looks like Solana is next for this ETF getting approved, it puts Bitcoin Cash, the Grayscale Trust Bitcoin Cash, and the Grayscale Trust Litecoin Trust, it puts them next on stage, right? Next to get these ETFs approved. And maybe some other ones, it's possible, but likely by market cap, likely by popularity, it would be these two. So that's why you have this kind of uncertainty, this stagnation in these trusts. And I've been saying this whole time, and especially so while we've been moving back. While the underlying assets have been moving up and the Grayscale trusts have been moving down, I've been saying they're decoupled now, they're diverging now, but it can't last. It won't last because this isn't just an idea. There are actual Bitcoin Cashes that this trust holds. They hold. It's a trust. It actually is worth something, right? You're at a premium right now, but regardless of how high that premium is, regardless of how much you're diverging in time, I can't be bearish on a chart that looks like this whenever it's tethered. It's not directly tethered, and that's why you get this divergence, but it is tethered to some degree to this underlying asset, which looks like it's about to break out to this really bullish. I'm going to make a Bitcoin Cash video here soon, guys, but you guys, we did it. We broke above. We crossed the monthly ribbon bullishly. This is a very extraordinarily bullish event, okay? I can't be bearish on something like this that's tethered to something like this. I just can't be, okay? And let's go over the real reasons why, right? You can say, you can be skeptical. You can say, well, C-Zar, what if it does correct? What if it does go to its NAV price? Okay, fine. I'll bite. You should bite too. Let's go. Let's take a dive. Let's take a little swim in this realm of reality where Bitcoin Cash drops to its NAV price, where Bitcoin Cash has an ETF approved. Your worst fears are realized. Let's do it right now. We're going to do it right now. You ready for it? Here's Bitcoin Cash BCHG on the Grayscale Trust, right? Here we go. NAV price or market price is $6.19. NAV price is $4.38, okay? So if an ETF were to get approved, if your worst nightmares were realized, we drop down to where? 438. 438 is right there. It's a 30% drop. By the way, that drop comes in very well with this low here, very well with these previous areas of resistance here and previous areas of support. So at your worst case scenario, you have another 30% down to go, and that sucks. That really sucks. But guess what? The underlying asset's moving up. If you're going to have a tether, if you're going back to your NAV price, if you are going to be tethered and move tit for tat with Bitcoin Cash, if an ETF's getting approved and it's not, and this is the whole thing, right? It's not getting approved. I've always thought that, but we're actually going to buy. We're going to bid into the delusions here and the fear and the uncertainty and the manic mania. Let's say it pulls back down to its NAV price. Your worst fears are realized. Let's say Bitcoin Cash does half of what I'm expecting it to do, just half. And you guys know what I'm expecting Bitcoin Cash to do, right? I'm expecting it to go all the way up. Nope, keep going. All the way up to 23K. Okay, 23K or more. That's a 44x from here. Let's say it does half of that, just half of what I'm expecting it to go to. Let's say it goes to even lower, less than half. Let's say it only goes to 10K, less than half of what I'm expecting, okay? So maybe it's a more realistic outcome. Maybe it's still too bullish of an outcome, but it's still half of what I'm expecting. You know what? It's not conservative enough. Let's cut it in half again. We're going to cut my half in half. 1,800%, we're going to cut it down. We're going to do 900%. 900% right here, okay? 900, come on, let's get right there. 909%. Enough to get new all-time highs, maybe more realistic. Nobody could argue that, especially with this bullish cross, that this is a real possibility, right, by the end of the cycle, let alone anything else. If BCHG is tethered to Bitcoin Cash and it drops to its NAV price, which is 438, this is 1 cent off, but whatever, and then it has 900% left to go in this cycle, that would mean that BCHG, at a minimum, even if your worst fears were realized, at a minimum, BCHG is going back above $40, okay? Confidently. There's no ands, ifs, or buts. Not in your worst shitty nightmares with all your fear and panic could you muster up enough doubt to push this price below something that wouldn't muster up at least $43. Even in your worst, literally, how do we get to this number? We took it and we brought it down to NAV price, assuming that an ETF were to be filed or approved. This is where all this uncertainty and fear is coming from, right? And then what we did was we took my all-time high prediction, we cut it in half, and then we cut it in half again. And by that metric, that's how we got to here. So let alone if it actually got cut in half the first time, which is 1,800%, right? Then you're at $82. Let alone if we didn't cut it in half. So even tethered to Bitcoin this cycle, Bitcoin Cash, you would see this thing at $192. And maybe not, maybe, if it was tethered, then yes. But obviously, that's if Bitcoin Cash is at this at a 20K high. If it's not tethered, then you'll probably see BCHG top off before Bitcoin Cash because it's not tethered, right? That's just kind of how it happens. All right, now this is all assuming, right? This is all assuming the worst happens, right? We've been fearful. We've been concerned. There's panic. People are throwing shade at me for making a sarcastic post or a sarcastic title. It is fear galore in the Grayscale Trust economy right now. And even in your worst nightmares, it's not that bad, right? Now, let's pretend that we're on the other end of the road. We chose, instead of the path of darkness, we're choosing the path of lightness and prosperity and butterflies and rainbows. I saw a unicorn flying over it, farted out a rainbow. We're going to talk about that path, okay? Here it is. Everybody's fearful. Everybody's panicking. Bitcoin Cash and LTC are the next ones on the chopping block to get these ETFs approved or filed or whatever, and that's why there's a little divergence between the underlying asset and the trust. But when the price goes up, when the underlying assets continue to grow, when the fear goes away, and really what it's going to take for the fear to go away is the price to just do this, right? I can promise you it's not going to go too much lower unless the ETFs get approved. And even then, we'll do the same thing for LTCN just to do the math, just to see how realistic it should be of anybody to be afraid of the price for LTCN right now or worried about their gains, right? But we've already done it for BCHG. LTCN has a higher premium, so it won't be as much growth overall if your worst fears are realized. But will LTC get an ETF approved before XRP? Well, you know what I mean? Would it get an ETF approved before BCH? Maybe. But where was I going? Where was I going with this? Right. Price moves up. All that fear and uncertainty goes away. The divergence narrows. And then eventually you're going to, instead of seeing Bitcoin Cash outperforming BCHG, you're going to see BCHG surpass Bitcoin Cash. It's going to make up. It's like a spring. It's being compressed. Or like a rubber band. It's being stretched. And when that tension is released, it's going to fly you all the way up to these all-time highs. It's going to fly you through them. Even at your worst possible shit-tastic dreams, there are multiple scenarios, very realistic scenarios, where you would see new all-time highs in the BCHG Trust. Even if you're at NAV price, where are you going to be? Where are you going to be if there is no ETF? Where are you going to be if all this fear goes away? Where are you going to be if everything that I'm saying comes to fruition, which is that this divergence from the underlying asset goes away and eventually you actually surpass the growth of the underlying asset, like you've done this whole cycle, right? You surpass it in growth, you surpass it in deficits. It's just how it is. It's taking longer, but honestly, this chart looks super bullish right now. It looks ready to rip. Very bullish weekly RSI, very bullish price action. You found support at very key areas to find support in this thing's history. Absolutely you did. Undeniably you did. Genuinely, undeniably, absolutely you did. It's phenomenal. Okay? The only reason that anyone's bearish right now and I said this before too, is because it's tethered to Bitcoin Cash. If this was a chart, a standalone chart by itself, it had nothing to do with Bitcoin Cash, and you just looked at the chart for itself, you would very clearly have to be bullish. Of course you're bullish. This thing looks like it wants to see new all-time highs. But if you knew nothing about it, you wouldn't be bearish on it. But the only reason why people are freaking out, I think I've said it enough. But let's do LTCN. Let's finish this up. Right, let's do the same math for LTCN. Grayscale Trust. I'll probably give this title like Grayscale Trusts are not broken. I'll probably do that. It's just funny. That's my kind of humor. Again, I'm not trying to like attack anybody, but I'm not afraid of being offensive. I don't want to offend anybody, but I do live by this kind of philosophy of like, is something offensive or are you offended? And there's a difference. There's a difference. Is it offensive or are you offended? And 9 out of 10 times in my life, from what I've seen, even if it has nothing to do with me, it's people getting offended. It's not the thing being offensive. It's like actually people getting offended. But so if anyone's offended by my title that I make today, again, it's not that I'm trying to offend anybody. I'm just saying something that I think is ironic and funny to me. And is it me that's being offensive or is it you who's being offended? And there's a difference. It's not always one and the same. It can be. It's not always not the same, but enough philosophizing. This isn't a live stream. Let's do the math. It's not even really math. I'm not doing math. I'm just drawing. NAV price, 869. Market price, 1477. That's a bit more of a premium. A bit more. 869. Okay. Let's paint this picture again. Your worst fears are realized. Litecoin, an ETF. Canary Capital got the good. They got the good. They got their ETF approved. Grayscale is going to file for an ETF and it will get approved, okay? Your Litecoin, your LTCN, hopes and dreams of a premium that'll skyrocket this thing up to $1,000. Decimated. Gone. Abolished. They don't exist. You're crying. You're living at your mom's house, or so you think, right? 869 would be the NAV share price that you'd have to drop to. Okay, you're at 1477 now. 869, pretty close right there, right? 871, about a 41% drop, which again comes in line with these lows here, this low here, this previous area of resistance here. Not quite there. I shouldn't say that, but anyways, somewhat of an area that you'd expect to find support in. Previous gaps down here. Okay, at your worst fears, it returns to NAV price. That's it right there, 41% drop. Now that sucks. I wouldn't want to lose 10% on anything. I don't want to lose 5% on anything, let alone 41%. But let's say it goes all the way down here, 41%. I'm going to put it at 870. It's off by 1 cent. Okay, now let's say Litecoin does what I'm expecting it to do, or maybe not exactly what I'm expecting. Here, let me go back here. Come on, back. There we go. LTC. Crypto. Okay, this is its all-time history. I've theorized for a long time, right, that Litecoin will see new all-time highs this cycle. Now, those highs, they vary. They depend on a couple different things. But the first target that we have from an all-time high to an all-time low, or not all-time high, but the high in this consolidation phase to the low, first target is $805 at the 1272. Now, me personally, I don't think you've consolidated for multiple cycles to stop at your first target. That doesn't sound right to me. It can happen. It exists for a reason, but I don't think you stop there. The most common areas to stop are the 1272 and the 1618. You oftentimes enough do stop at the 1414, but it's less common than either of these areas. So I'm going to assume that you at least will see 1200. Personally, right? 800 is the minimum target, and it's something to consider, but I don't think that you would stop there. But I would consider at least 1200 being the minimum target. I truthfully do expect that you'd see something probably around 2000, if not 2500. That's my personal expectation. But these are like the minimum areas, okay? Somewhere here. It's very possible that Litecoin could be worth 4,500, 6,300. It could be worth more. Genuinely, it could be worth more by the end of the cycle, you guys. I think Litecoin slept on a lot of time to accumulate. The big dogs, the institutions have had a lot of good time to accumulate. I'm not going to go over all my reasons why I think it's going to go up, but minimum targets there. If we were to measure this pattern for what it is, from a low to a high, okay, that minimum target would take us all the way up to about 6,300. And actually, we're supposed to do this in linear, I think. Maybe that gives us a better target, a more accurate representation, right? Let's see. From a low point here to the high point there, if we were to put it right there as like a conservative breakout target, that would give us a target of only about $721. Okay, so maybe not so much there. But all I'm trying to say, that's not what I'm trying to say. All I'm trying to say is I think a suitable minimum target would be 1,200, right? 800 is the actual minimum target, but I think I just don't see that happening. If you're going to break out to new all-time highs, I doubt you stop here. So the minimum target here would be an 1,100% move. Okay, 1,100%. I genuinely think Litecoin's going to go all the way up to 2,000, 2,500, right? Something like that, 2,000%, 2,400, 2,300%. We cut that in half. That's essentially right here at 1,100%, 1,000%, okay? If LTC is going to move up that much, that would mean if we diverted, or if we converged on our NAV price, if LTCN's worst fears were realized and the ETF got approved and Grayscale filed an ETF and tethered this to Litecoin, that would mean that even after the NAV price, you would still see prices at least around $100, if not above $100, right? At least around there, at least higher than anything you've seen this cycle. So is it worth shitting your pants over? The answer is no. Is it a little bit discouraging that this is a possibility? Yes, but it should be encouraging that this is a possibility, because this isn't a possibility that's likely, right? This isn't the likely outcome that we're going over. This is the worst possible outcome that we're going over, right? I suppose the worst possible outcome would be Grayscale's a giant fraudulent company. They don't own any of the trust that they're saying. It's all bullshit. The reserves are not valid, and they ran off with your money. They faked their death certificates, right? Now they're living life in Bali or something like that, right? That would be the worst case scenario. But outside of something wacky like that happening, even in your most realistic worst case scenario, you're still probably going to see prices that are dramatically higher than you are now, right? Anybody who's down will make money. By the end of it, you will all be in the green. And this is the worst case scenarios. What happens when all the people who are shitting themselves over these worst case scenarios, what happens when they realize that this is what it would mean, right? They're probably not going to shit themselves as hard. What happens whenever the price catches up to the underlying asset? There's going to be less fear. There's going to be that same, I don't want to say it, but that same mania that caused this coming back into the markets, right? I very much do believe LTCN will outperform Bitcoin Cash BCHG over this coming period of the bull cycle. I don't know if it'll be from here to the end of the bull cycle. It could be, but I think from here to the end of the year, I think it will. But time will tell. Even if it doesn't outperform BCHG, it's still going to do well. I think both of these trusts are going to do well. And when it comes to BCHG and LTCN specifically, and this is why I targeted these two, they are the ones that are like closest to their NAV price, right? They are the ones that are of the lowest risk when it comes to any of this potential ETF scare stuff. And yet most people hold these, right? So they get most of the fear. They're on the chopping block next for the ETF, so they get most of the fear. But the reality is, right, you've been held back so much. The NAV price has caught up that even if your worst fears are realized, it wouldn't be a bad thing, right? And again, these are all at minimum targets. What if Litecoin does more than what I'm not more than what I'm expecting? What if it does exactly what I'm expecting, or more than what I'm expecting? Right. Anyways, I got nothing else to say. I hope it all makes sense. I love you all, right? I hope you all make a lot of money. I'm not trying to mislead anybody. I'm not trying to offend anybody or upset anybody. I enjoy comedy. I enjoy humor. I enjoy sarcasm and dry humor, right? Not everybody does. I enjoy all forms, guys. There's nothing too dumb for me to not laugh at, right? And I did genuinely make that last title because I thought it was kind of funny. And I'm going to do the same thing in this video. It's not going to be the exact same thing, but you'll probably see, I mean, you already know. By this point, you already know what the title is. So it's just how I am. I don't know. This isn't a professional thing. I got my Christmas tree right here. I'm in my living room. You can see my house plant back there, right? It looks like it needs to be watered, right? This is not a professional thing. I'm C-Zar. I'm your buddy, your crypto pal. telling you how it is, and with that there's a lack of professionalism, and that's how I like it, damn it. That's how I like it. So sarcastic titles, they're not always there, but when they happen, you know, maybe just think about what you know about me as a person. Like, am I that guy? Am I that guy who's trying to give you clickbaity, grab you, gotcha titles that mislead you? Is that me? Is that me? Right? That's what half of you were saying in the comments. Were like, I never thought you were this kind of person. Well, okay. Think, am I? Like, even with that title, was I being that kind of person? Or maybe did you receive sarcasm improperly, as is common on the internet or online, right? I don't know. Over here I am groping and griping about something that's not even that significant. I hope you guys don't grope and gripe over things that aren't that significant. I'll see you on the next one. I hope you all make a bunch of money. I genuinely, you guys, almost decided to to sell some of my Bitcoin Cash today. Not today. I thought about doing it today, and I would do it on Monday. Selling some Bitcoin Cash for some BCHG just to prove how valid or how confident I am in what I'm saying. I'm not going to do it because I promised myself long ago that I will not mess with derivatives, really. Right? And I say that. I do mess with some derivatives. I don't mess with derivatives in crypto anymore. I mess with derivatives in stocks. I get the Grayscale Trust are stocks, but they're derivatives of crypto. So I won't buy it, but the thought genuinely crossed my mind. I'm like, I should transfer like a quarter of my BCH wealth into BCHG, because I really do think BCHG, not only is it going to outperform, but it's going to slingshot. Like this next bit, you guys, it's going to make every single person who's been worried over the past however many weeks now about the price. It's going to make you all be like, man, why didn't I buy more down here? Man, can the price stop moving up so much so that I could buy more? The same people that are going to say that are the same people who are worried about the price dropping now. Anyways, that's all I got. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.